Top stories in this edition of the WINN Weekender. The appointment of former Supervisor of Elections Leroy Benjamin is creating controversy and is being criticized. The Deputy Premier and Prime Minister clash over a health screening not sanctioned by the Nevis Ministry of Health. And a ray of hope for Caribbean tourism as the UK is set to decrease the air passenger duty. Welcome to another edition of the WINN Weekender, a comprehensive recap of the major stories making the news this week. I'm Tony Frederick. The appointment of former Supervisor of Elections Leroy Benjamin as a police superintendent is being questioned. The appointment is tied to his role as the chaplain of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force. However, it is being described by some critics as an affront to good governance. More in this story from Ken Richards.
The appointment is tied into his role as the chaplain of the country's police force. However, the appointment is being described by some critics as an affront to good governance. One of those critics is Operation Rescue's Dwyer Astafan, who described it as an outrage on his radio program, The Operating Room.
The appointment of Leroy Benjamin as a police superintendent, or him even continuing as the force chaplain, all of us are sinners. And it's not about him as it is about the credibility of the organization and his record in the public service. So says the Court of Appeal is blemished. Misconduct in public office. In which jurisdiction a person could be held by a court, an appeal court no less, to be guilty of misconduct in public office, only to be sworn in to another public office or kept as a force chaplain. Is nothing personal against Benji. It's about the credibility of the institution, a most crucial and delicate institution, the people who are there to keep law and order in the country. He already breached the first oath, or he breached the oath. It's the same oath. You take it if you go into Parliament and so forth, to uphold the Constitution and the law without fear of favor, ill will, and that sort of thing. You must operate within the law. The Court of Appeal found him not to have done so, and he's given another appointment, and not just any place, but in the police force, whose fundamental remit is to uphold the law and keep peace and good order in the country. And he's put in a post which requires that upon being put there, or as a prerequisite to, he must take the same oath.
Another critic is former Police Commissioner Calvin J. Foy, who is questioning the decision because Leroy Benjamin, while functioning as Supervisor of Elections, was found guilty of misfeasance and disenfranchisement of voters by the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. And speaking Wednesday on WINN FM's Voices program, the former police chief denounced what he described as the partisanship involved.
And I am saying it's a mockery with what the force is going to now, to impose an individual in uniform at gazetted rank, who, as I know it, will be entitled to compliment by salute. It tells me that there will be more grumbling and some form of demoralizing most of our hard, energetic, conscientious police officers. You cannot impose this type of thing. If you want to say you have a chaplain because the force going through a number of, some are depressed, some are demoralized, etc. Get people who are qualified to deal with situation. Don't get people who you believe are partisan. And that is what is mashing up our country and our force today. Everything seems to revolve around partisanship, and because of that, we are not getting the best of our brain, whether it's in the private sector, whether in non-government, whether in the police force. We are not getting the best, because if you stand up for what you believe in, you will be targeted as not being one of us.
Former Commissioner Foy said he views appointing Benjamin a police superintendent as an affront to discipline in the paramilitary body. That has been countered by a police explanation that what has happened in this situation is not uncommon in military and paramilitary organizations. Leroy Benjamin resigned as Supervisor of Elections in August of 2012.
Deputy Premier Mark Brantley blasted Prime Minister Dr. Denzel Douglas this past week for encouraging Nevis nurses to volunteer at a health screening that was not sanctioned by the Nevis Ministry of Health.
Now, how dare the Prime Minister going to tell staff of the Nevis Island administration to defy the Nevis Island administration. He paying any salaries in Nevis? He's out of place.
Speaking on his Ask the PM program on Tuesday, Prime Minister Dr. Denzel Douglas decried the Nevis Ministry of Health's decision not to endorse the Caribbean Health Education Foundation's health screenings being held in St. Kitts and Nevis this week.
I want to say to you, the nurses, defy whatever ruling that has been given by Mark Brantley. Defy it. It is your health. It is your people's health. If they don't want you to go and assist in this project during your working hours, when you finish working, go and lend a helping hand, because the government must not intervene in what is a good effort to help the people with their health.
The Prime Minister called on divisions to take advantage of the screenings.
That is why, again, I use this particular program to say to my good friend Mark Brantley, stop playing politics with the lives of the people of Nevis. People's health should not be tied up in petty party politics. And if the minister in the Nevis Island administration responsible for health does not understand what this whole process is about, ask his colleague Prime Minister, the Honourable Marcella Althea Liburd in St. Kitts. Ask her.
The opposition Nevis Reformation Party and its supporters have been blasting the Nevis Island administration for refusing to give the official sanction to the free rapid screenings for chronic kidney disease. Calling in on Ask the PM Tuesday, NRP party organiser Carlisle Powell sharply criticised the NIA for its decision.
What ethical considerations can they have when you have doctors here from Washington State University, Johns Hopkins University, Mount Sinai University, the Kidney Trust, the University of the West Indies, and Professor Barton, the chief nephrologist, is involved? What ethical considerations can they have when the Ministry of Health in the federal government has signed off on this?
Speaking on WINN FM's Breakfast Show Wednesday morning, NRP Deputy Leader and former Minister of Health in Nevis, Hensley Daniel, had harsh words for Brantley, the current Health Minister.
He is too incompetent to be in the chair as the Minister of Health. The government is robbing people of the opportunity to know their health status. My last count tells me that up to last night they had screened 947 people.
Brantley, however, is unmoved by the criticism. He says he stands by his ministry's decision, which was made on the advice of the Chief Medical Officer.
Any research done within the Federation using subjects, using people in the Federation, that data must belong to the Ministry of Health and the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. Only through that ownership of that data can we decide who gets it, when it is published, what it is used for, and the like. Those two issues have to date not been resolved. In terms of the ethical review questions, Chef and the Nevis Renal Society simply have not complied. In relation to the data ownership, Chef has been adamant that all data from this research will belong to Chef and will be the personal and private property of Chef. I am reliably advised that the same advice that was given to Nevis by the CMO's office was given to St. Kitts as well. That is, this research does not comply with the standards that we have here in St. Kitts and Nevis or with international standards in relation to ethical review and in relation to data ownership, and as a result ought not to proceed with the formal approval of the government.
He said he is not ungrateful for institutions that offer to provide expertise to the people of Nevis, but he would not bend the rules.
I take full responsibility for the decision not to partner with this event in Nevis, and if it were to happen again tomorrow, my response and my approach of this ministry would be the same. We are guided by the principles and the protocols that are established for anything to do with medicine, medical care, health care in the Federation. And if the Chief Medical Officer says to me that this is in violation of our rules and he recommends that we cannot go forward, I will be guided by the advice of the CMO.
Contacted Wednesday for a comment on the situation, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patrick Martin said, quote, "The CMO's advice, like any other technocratic advice, is subject to acceptance or not. that is the norm, end quote. More bad news for a local gas station owner whose business has been disrupted by road construction at the Kim Collins Highway and Frigate Bay Road junction. Saul has closed down his pumping operations, due, the gas supplier says, to the roadworks in the area. Mr. Sylvester Fraser, owner of Frisco's service station, tells WINN FM that his business had already dropped off by 10 to 15% over the past 3 weeks since the road project diverted Bastair-bound traffic away from his operation. Now that Saul has suspended delivery of gas and diesel, Mr. Fraser says he will likely have to lay off staff.
It has a tremendous effect on the business. As a matter of fact, I've been speaking to the Labour Commissioner pertaining to laying off the staff because, as you're aware, if nobody's coming to buy gas and diesel, the staff won't have anything to do. So I am in discussion with the Labour Commissioner now to get some instructions as to how do I go about laying off the staff, because business is basically at a standstill. I've got to change my working hours because it is very slow.
What kind of numbers could be affected if you're obliged to temporarily lay off?
50% of the staff, which is about 10.
In a public notice issued Monday, Saul advises customers that Frisco's has been closed until further notice due to the road improvement program in the area, which it says has impacted the operation of the site. Saul operations supervisor Dennis Ferdinand declined to provide details when contacted by WINN FM Tuesday, saying only that during the closure the company would take the opportunity to upgrade the station. Tuesday, Mr. Fraser also declined to comment when asked about reports that underground tanks at the station had been believed to be damaged by the vibrations from the roadworks in the area. Reports reaching WINN FM indicate that the concrete will have to be dug up and the tanks examined by Saul engineers, but Mr. Fraser would only say that he hoped the situation would be resolved as quickly as possible.
I would like to apologize to my customers, the motoring public and the whole, for the closure of us not being able to sell gas and diesel. That is something I would not like to get into, but I would like to assure the public that the business is open, the deli, the shop. We are still selling LPG and also the snack it. I'm hoping that this matter will be resolved as soon as possible and we can get to serving the general public and the motoring public as soon as possible.
Asked about the closure of the gas station at a press conference Monday, project manager Peter Jenkins suggested that the problem at Frisco dated back some time and was not related to the roadworks.
The gas station has had problems going back at least 3 months, which are not related to the construction. And so one should not confuse the issue of the gas station with the project. And in fact, the design envisages improvements to the entry at the gas station to allow better access for persons using the gas station. And so it is envisaged that the business of the gas station, that the business done by the gas station will improve as a result of the project and the access provided specifically by this project for entry into the gas station.
The first phase of the road improvement project in the area got underway about 3 months ago. Still to come on the WINN Weekender, police warn about the disturbance of persons' peaceful livelihoods. Was the picketing of the Speaker of the House the reason for the warning? We'll find out more in the next half of our show.
What's for lunch, Mom? I'm hungry.
Would you get out of the pot? It's just what our home needed.
¿Puedes dejar de trastear? ¿A la izquierda? No. Mucho.
Honey, could you pass me the bread, please?
At Courts, every day we bring affordability, convenience, innovation, and style to over 1 million customers in 11 countries. From homes to communities, we are proud to make a difference in the lives of many across the region. Courts, bringing value home.
Welcome back. The St. Kitts and Nevis police have issued a release warning that it's an offence to follow people around, harassing them and disturbing their peaceful livelihoods at their workplace, home or at public places. According to the March 15th statement, the police are concerned about the reports of that kind of activity. No specific cases were cited in the release, but it's thought that the concern relates to the picketing of Speaker Curtis Martin by Team Unity supporters. Ken Richards has more.
The St. Kitts and Nevis police have issued a release warning that it is an offense to follow people around, harassing them and disturbing their peaceful livelihood at their workplace, home or at public places. According to the March 15 statement, the police are concerned about reports of that kind of activity. No specific cases were cited, but it's thought that the concern relates to picketing of Speaker Curtis Martin by Team Unity supporters. Opposition activists have been demonstrating on and off outside the National Bank, the Speaker's workplace. During the latest protest action last week, Monday, the former leader of the People's Action Movement, Lindsey Grant, followed the Speaker from his workplace as he went to collect his daughter from school.
On one particular day, yes, we followed the Speaker, demonstrating to him that we need him to table the vote of no confidence.
The placard holding Grant was intent on making the Team Unity case that Speaker Martin should table in Parliament the motion of no confidence in the government of Prime Minister Denzil Douglas filed in December 2012.
We are not foolish. We know that that release has been issued as a consequence of our conduct and our constant pressure against the Speaker of the House. And they know that the Speaker and all around him are concerned about the pressure by the Team Unity, and the pressure will continue in spite of that.
It's not clear whether the Speaker has complained to the police about the incident. However, Labour Party spokesman Austin Edinburgh, a former police officer, was heard on local radio calling on the police to act against alleged stalking of the Speaker. Police spokesman Inspector Lyndon David has suggested that the warning is a routine matter and not necessarily linked to recent opposition picketing of the Speaker.
Well, if persons are demonstrating and picketing, they should not interfere with people. But the release that we sent out has nothing to do with what you just mentioned to me, pertaining to the Speaker. The release that we sent explains itself as to the fact that we have reports, and the release has to do with the reports we receive it. And instead of persons getting themselves in unnecessary trouble, they just be mindful of what the law is saying and govern themselves accordingly. We prefer people to adhere to the law, as opposed to not, and then they find themselves before court, or police has to intervene, and then all sorts of things that are not really related are being said. So we only can deal with it from a law enforcement standpoint, and I'm not going to read anything else into it, but just strictly law enforcement. Persons are being doing it. We had persons being prosecuted, and we've seen a lot of it coming up, so we just want to let people just adhere to the law and govern themselves accordingly. So persons who did not know, they now know it's an offense.
But here is a fair question. Is the reports you're getting linked to any of the pickets or demonstrations that have been held recently?
Not from my standpoint. All we're dealing with is just the reports that we're getting so that people could be governing themselves accordingly.
In their release, the police suggested that the public should be guided by Section 4 of the Prevention of Crime Act and lists offences under the Act that are punishable, including persistently following an individual about from place to place. However, Lindsey Grant contends that public figures can expect to be picketed in the national interest.
And one must appreciate that legislation relates to private individuals, and the Speaker is a public figure, and public figures are by their nature expected to have the demands of public life thrust upon them, as is the Speaker's position now. Our fundamental rights and freedoms and privileges are enshrined in the Constitution, and Section 2 of the Constitution says that if any law offends or is in contravention of the Constitution, that law will be invalid to the extent of the inconsistency with the Constitution. And so I will continue my constitutional and fundamental rights to demonstrate against the Speaker.
The law, as quoted by the police, explains that an offence is also committed if the individual watches or besets the house or other place where such a person resides or works or comes on business. It states further that this applies also to a situation where, with two other persons, the individual follows the person concerned in a disorderly manner in or through any street or road.
There's likely to be some relief come 2015 from Britain's controversial air passenger duty for Caribbean destinations, including St. Kitts and Nevis. That's because UK passengers on some long-haul flights are set to pay less tax following a revamp of the APD. The government in London has confirmed that the two highest of the 4 APD tax bands are to be scrapped. The St. Christopher Air and Seaports Authority, SCASPA, on Wednesday unveiled its new breasting dolphin at the cargo port, which will enable large cruise ships to dock when needed. Andre Huey reports.
During a brief ceremony at the port next to the cruise vessel, the Ida, which docked moments earlier, Tourism Minister Richard Skerritt and SCASPA Managing Director Jonathan Bass touted the significance of the new breasting dolphin, especially as the number of cruise ships to St. Kitts is increasing. WINN spoke to Ludell Harvey, chief pilot at SCASPA, about this new development.
The breasting dolphin is basically an extension of the cargo facility. It stands at 400 feet away from the cargo facility and 200 feet from the existing dolphin. What this does, the construction of this type of dolphin, it gives us the opportunity and the chance to berth ships of bigger class ship, easy class. We can take right now up to 950 feet vessel alongside here. Had it not been for this new breasting dolphin, this would not have been possible. Because ships need to be tied up properly and they need to have good leads on the line. So the breasting dolphin actually affords us the opportunity to tie up ships the way that they should be tied up and in a safe way. But we are yet to see the bigger ships that come here, which will actually going to be touching on the dolphin and breasting on the dolphin, and we can have a better idea of the strength and how good it works out.
To end the WINN Weekender, the top stories again. The appointment of former Supervisor of Elections Leroy Benjamin creates controversy and is likely to be heavily criticized. The Deputy Premier and Prime Minister clash over a health screening not sanctioned by the Nevis Ministry of Health. This has been the WINN Weekender. On behalf of the WINN TV News team, I'm Tony Frederick reporting.